much other than, it's obviously a big game for us. Still fairly early, but not as early as it was 2 weeks ago in league play. And practice today was any indication we're getting better. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to play in a big game here at home with our students back. Looking forward to seeing them here.
What did you see in practice?
Just energy. I think there was an extreme level of ownership in our film session today and our meeting as we digested what happened on Saturday and started to turn and prepare today. So there was a certain edge that we had about us that gives me confidence that we'll play better than we did.
What did you see in that film study now that you looked at all that?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time all year, honestly, that I felt like our defense kind of was a no-show. Felt that way during the game, particularly as the game started. They got a lot of easy shots. And then obviously the film kind of confirmed that. Our defense didn't have much teeth to it. And so I think the guys understand you got to do both in this league. We've obviously made a lot of big deal about offense. And sometimes that makes you think, well, I guess we got this part down. We don't have to focus on it as much, but you got to do both.
How's Musa doing?
Better. Moving better today than he was at any point up until now. Got in a drill in practice today just to test it out. It was non-contact. So making progress, but still not comfortable saying that he'll be ready to go.
What's kind of the scout on OU?
They're good. Kind of an underrated defensive team in terms of what people talk about. They're really good, right? They're right behind us in the league defensively. And they've got a guy who they can play through on the perimeter, Sherfield, who scored all his life, scores like he breathes. And so they're going to do the job with him. But they also have started to bring on a freshman guard who's going to be really, really good here. We'll have to make sure that we do a good job, not just focusing on Sherfield, but the other players around him that make his job easier, like, Uzan, obviously the Groves, brothers. Sam Godwin's playing really well for him. I'm sure it was a pleasant surprise for those guys. And so good team, well coached, tough, disciplined.
What is it that Sherfield does well to score as easy as he does?
I want to be respectful because I don't know the kid that well personally, but I think he just doesn't give a shit. Sometimes he's going to make shots, and sometimes he's going to miss them, and when he's ready and open for the next one, he's going to take that one. You got to have some of that to be a good player at this level. And obviously, he scored everywhere he's been, dating back to high school. And he carries that. He's not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of big shots, and he's very, very aggressive on the
floor. Your first bedlam as an assistant in 16-17 was in Norman. Do you remember that at all? And what do you remember from that, if at all?
I remember winning. I think it was a crazy Phil Forte shot. Kind of some of those plays that stick out in your mind as a coach, right? Juwan drives in there late, kicks it out to Juwan. Juwan drives in there, kicks it out the field, left corner, away from my bench, makes it three. So I just remember the feeling of like it's a big deal. If I remember correctly, they hadn't won there in a while up until that point. And I don't know if that group, Phil, Juwan, Jeff, had ever won there in their career up until that point. I have to go back and check that. But I remember it being a big, big moment for us that season.
Mike, what's working for Caleb? I know he's had back-to-back games with double-digit points. He seems to get a bit more comfortable.
Asbury,
yeah.
Right. Again, the season has a lot of dynamics, and one of the things with him is he missed some time. He wasn't with us for about a 2.5-week period. Got ill right before the holiday, and then we had the holiday break. So he was away from us. And so not practicing, not really, and obviously we continue on. It's like Musa now. We can't stop. We got to keep preparing. You got to keep putting in offense. So since he's been back, I think just getting comfortable with the shots he's going to be able to get within our offense, but also understanding, the conference a little bit better as we go along.
He started the second half the other night, right?
I don't know.
He did.
Did he?
Yeah, I think you put him in that starting five in the second half.
Yeah.
Is that a sign of what he's been doing lately? Is it?
There's a lot of factors that go in.
Yeah.
John Michael had struggled to that point, if I remember now that you kind of refreshed my memory there. And he had been playing well. And so I think we're just looking for anything to kind of spark us to a little bit of a run, which obviously didn't necessarily equate, but I thought he continued to give us great minutes.
Is Caleb getting more vocal too? He talked about that to me about that after the game. He's trying
Caleb
to get,
Boone?
Asbury. He's trying to get more vocal.
You know, again, I think it's a comfort level. We talk about the impact of transfers, and certainly across the country you can see that. But it's still personality dynamics within the team that takes some time to kind of coalesce itself. So I think he's really, really comfortable with who he is within the team, what his voice means in the locker room. And one of the things I've always valued about him is he's been well coached, he's won, and he also kind of has a competitive edge about him where he believes he's one of the best guys on the court no matter who's out there. So we need that from him.
You mentioned in the past that you want Avery to shoot more when he's struggling. What's your confidence, or what do you see with his confidence right now?
Yeah, I mean, he played better the other day, and obviously getting healthy is a part of that. And for Avery, it's just a matter of, if he ever really loses confidence in his game, is to see he overthinks parts of his game. And obviously he hasn't shot the ball well from 3 this year, which is a little bit of a burden on him. And what we got to do is release him to just find other ways to impact the game and continue to defend at a high level, try to make plays for other people. But the truth is, when you're open, you still have to take your shots.
I think at the beginning of the season, you mentioned he's probably the best on-ball defender on the team. Do you still think that right now, like halfway through the season, I think?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the best on-ball defenders in our league, in a league full of really good defensive players. So we got to continue to have him do that, even on nights where he's not necessarily his best on the offensive side.
In the past, Avery's had a little bit of that Sherfield quality of don't give a shit.
Sure.
Does he still exhibit that in some of these struggles?
Not quite as much here. And you can see he's passed up some shots and kind of passed up shots that led to turnovers because now he may be overthinking what has happened. Sometimes that comes with feeling like pressure of being the guy, or perceived as being the guy, coming in as all conference. You feel like you gotta make every shot. You gotta play at this perfect game, which it's an imperfect game by nature. So I think he's back to, in the last week or so, and certainly getting healthy is a part of it, to believing that he's certainly one of the best players in the league.
You mentioned OU's defense. What is it that they do to kind of disrupt an offense?
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at their numbers. They don't force a ton of turnovers. They don't block a lot of shots. What they do is they just make you score over them every time. They don't gamble. They don't really get themselves out of position, and they're pretty physical team, pretty much across the board. I mean, and you can see the evident development physically in some of their players. Jacob grows, for instance. Tanner was always a little thicker, but Jacob's certainly thicker now. Bijan's body looks different now a year later. And so they made seem like a conscious effort to just be a more physically imposing defensive team. I think last year they maybe felt like they were a little bit overwhelmed athletically.
I'm not sure there's a bad time for a rivalry game ever. Does it feel like this is a good time for a rivalry game? Maybe a little spark for your team, you think?
The rivalry is important. Right now it's just important for us to play well, though. And certainly playing well against them is always at the top of the list of teams you want to play well against. Most importantly, we just got to understand it's a long game. We're in this thing as a marathon. It's game 5. We'd rather be 5-0 or 4-1 as opposed to 1-4. But we also know that there's still a lot of opportunities out there as we kind of trek through here. And looking forward to the students being back and hopefully bring great energy to the building on Wednesday.
You mentioned that. How important is that? I mean, I know there were some students in the game prior when they were on break, but how important is it getting the full student section here, you think?
I mean, I don't know if you can overvalue or overstate the value of the energy that the student crowd brings to college basketball games in general. I mean, certainly here it's always been a big deal, but we've been on the road too, and so we understand on the other side how that has impacted sometimes us not necessarily playing well. Still remember hearing some not so nice things up in Storrs, Connecticut back a couple months ago, and then obviously we know when the rest of the league what it looks like. So we just need to make sure that our fans understand, our students specifically, that they have a big part to play in us. At least create an environment that's cool and fun for our kids to play in.
You're hosting a class tomorrow. How did that idea kind of come to be?
Guys, the answer to this, I have no idea. I have a lot of really, really smart people who know that there are very few things that I wouldn't do to help promote our program. And so when this came up, it was a no-brainer in many ways. Obviously, the timing of it, school starting, and so just a great idea. But we got a lot of people behind the scenes that come up with tremendous ideas. Sports information, marketing, communications, creative, and so I'm just blessed to have a great staff behind us.
Is it fun for you to take parts in things like this, though?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's one of the beauties of coaching in college. Is I'll be 41 on tomorrow. Apparently, I'm trying to push it off. But this gives you a chance to continue to feel young because you're connected to young people all the time. That's why I like being on campus and partaking in activities with them. Because my little ones, they don't always help me feel young. Sometimes they make me feel old, but the college kids kind of keep me young.
Any big birthday plans?
I don't celebrate a whole lot, guys. I'll be honest. It is Dr. King, honoring Dr. King today. Our guys are going to go take part in the parade on campus after they get done with their academic meeting. And so that birthday is much more significant than mine ever will be. I mean, he did more by the time he was 12 years old than I will probably do the rest of my life. So just honored that our guys understand the significance of his impact. And I'm just thankful I get to share a Zodiac sign with him.
How important is a parade like that today? Not just for you, but the players, everybody.
I don't think you can ever do enough of helping people understand, as a country, how far we've come, while also recognizing we've still got a long ways to go in a lot of ways. We're not a perfect country, but it's still the best country in the world. We got to acknowledge that there were people who fought for us to be in positions like I am and myself, and be very, very thankful and appreciative of it. But you can't ever stop educating the younger folks who are further and further away every year from understanding or having real understanding of what that impact was. We get to a point where some of them even have grandparents who didn't even live through some of that stuff, and so it's hard because they don't necessarily always hear it from home that we continue to do that as educators.
Last week, Woody kind of talked about his past couple months. How much have you kind of seen him have to lean on some of these other teammates and guys like Musa that maybe have dealt with similar situations?
Yeah, again, talked about all the things that happened during the season, and certainly, you never wish to have to deal with that, but the reality is life. It's very few things that are guaranteed in life, but that's one of them. And for a young man who far away from home like Musa was, he needed to know that he had people that he could count on. And what I've seen since he's been back is he's slowly getting back to just having a urge and desire and hunger to do this and kind of not be burdened by what he's lost, but really trying to take advantage of what he still has in front of him. And he's playing better, and I think that doesn't hurt, right? Because when you also aren't having success in the thing that you're trying to do to distract you from the struggle, it probably makes it even heavier of a weight. So I'm thankful again to my staff. They did a great job of just kind of helping him through that moment, talking to him, spending time with him. One of our staff members went up to the funeral so we could be there with his family. Our team was obviously in the Bahamas during that time. So it's just part of the things you got to deal with, and I'm glad that he's here with us because I think we all needed each other.